Hello and welcome to Aspect. This is the first episode in a series of interviews with artists from the Glasgow area. There are lots of tutorials available that look at software, hardware, the skills of making. Aspect is a tutorial for practice, how to be a professional artist, how to promote yourself, how to make money. In this episode I meet with Oliver Braid. He's a sculptor that deals with emotions and relationships. He uses craft material, vibrant colours and pop culture to make his work. However, the reason he was picked for this first episode is that he's equally capable of discussing the philosophy behind art, either on his radio show with Ellie Harrison or in essays like I'll Look Forward to It. So let's join him now in his studio with the first part of the interview.
So I applied to come to Glasgow because I really wanted to be taught by Graham Ramsey.
Okay, yeah.
So I feel embarrassed every time I say that, and I don't know if that's ever got back to him. If it ever does, I'm embarrassed, but simultaneously I'm not that embarrassed, just a vibe. And so I was at home living with my parents again for 8 months, and I made a terrible solo show, and then I stopped making work for that period of time, and I was like, oh my god, well, I'm going to have to make work in September when I move to Glasgow. What on earth am I going to do? So what I did was, luckily, a lot of my old school friends were back in my hometown as well. We just did a lot of drugs and drank a lot and ate a lot and hung out and wasted time. We just had a really fun time. Like an amazing period of time. And one of my friends had a fancy dress party in June, so it was about the midpoint, and I knew, like, you are going to have to learn how to be an artist again if you're going to Glasgow. And so I made a fancy dress costume of a Facebook page, and I just loved it. I loved getting up and working on it every day. And it was the first time I'd had that experience for a really long time where making something wasn't a pain.
Satisfying,
And then I just thought, wow, this is because it's something to do with my friends, but it's also a certain type of material. You know, I was working with like PVA glue and cardboard and a bit of paper, like coloured paper, stuff like that, which now which since 2008 has become a more recurrent feature of my work, because I just realised that actually
those are your preferred materials.
They were materials that I felt very comfortable with, and I think it's partly in not feeling very confident about other materials because I don't really feel like an artist with an interest in, like, you know, developing skills, but also I felt less threatened by the materials because if I made a mistake it didn't matter. And I was sewing a lot as well by that point, like just small things, but I just loved the action. Like, I love being able to sit. But then I moved to Glasgow. Right, I'm sorry.
No.
This is your original question. I moved to Glasgow in September 2008. And so I was a bit nervous because I felt really comfortable with the people that I'd been friends with at home. And the first day I got to Glasgow, I was walking up Great Western Road, and some, like, kids, they were about 13 or something, asked me to get them some cigs from the co-op. And I was like, oh no, sorry. And then because I said no, they started taking the piss out of my voice. And I was like, oh god, this bodes well. Welcome to Glasgow. But actually, since then, it's been absolutely fine.
So how was your initial experience of Glasgow? I mean, if you've just had this amazing summer with all your friends and you felt really good and you had this really rewarding experience in making, and you came to Glasgow, so how did you fall? Did the university fulfil your sort of your expectations? I mean, did it work for you?
I loved it.
Good.
I loved every minute of it. Second year was a bit more stressful, and it took me a really long time to realise that. I thought that it was everybody else that had turned into arseholes, but actually it was everyone, including myself, had become an arsehole because everybody was really busy. The year that I was on the MFA, in fact, our tutors said at the time to me once that it's so unusual to have a year that just bonded so well instantly, and the year above us used to refer to us as being like some kind of weird Christian youth group because everybody just got on so well and no one could really understand it. And so since that time, since about 2009, I've tended to veer between the state of feeling like I love being here and I know lots of people, but there are other times when I think no one likes me here, my work isn't getting the recognition that I want it to. But again, I don't want to overemphasize that as some kind of creative situation, because actually I think it's just how people
deal with a place.
feel. In the arts, it can, or in a city of this size, with like, I mean, there are different pockets of creative community, and I don't think that we should just say like an arts community and think that everybody's going to know everybody.
No.
There'll be interconnections between these different things. But I think you are more likely to feel like you could feel left out. Like if you don't get invited to do a project, but lots of people that you know are invited to do that thing, or and all of those were things that I hadn't really factored in for before, because I'd never been in such a competitive. Not that it's overtly competitive, and I think like people don't really like to focus on the fact that it can be competitive. But to me, it seems weird to not talk about something that actually can cause a lot of problems for people. I think it can cause friends to fall out. I think it can make individuals feel like very hard done by, and also like, I mean, I guess like you're in a situation where your ego is just constantly up and down. Like, oh, I'm doing this thing at the minute, so I'm doing well, and then you go through periods where that doesn't happen. So between January 2011 to February, March 2012, basically I just worked all the time, and I was never out of work, and I was just consistently busy, and I never had time off. Which to me seemed like heaven.
Of course it would,
Although actually the problem is, when I say I had no time off, I mean it pretty literally. It was my fault for taking on too much work. But also like feeling like
but there's that sense
no
that
other
you can
option.
never say no.
And then after March, I didn't have like a major consistent flow of work for a couple of months, which is also to do with or connected to how I came to start reading and writing a lot more, because I thought this is the ideal time for reflection. And that has to be part of, because also I feel like I'd spent myself work-wise, like my message was over. I didn't have anything to say.
So you needed that time away from actual practice and sort of being a full-on artist, full-time artist.
It was like everything I was doing, like I was doing projects for people that were asking me to do stuff, but none of it felt that strong, because I didn't have any new ideas, so I needed new ideas. Now I'm in this situation again where I've got 3 weeks to finish the biggest artwork, or not the biggest art, but the biggest sculpture that I've ever made in my life. The first time I ever made a sculpture that I consider like an important sculpture.
Bit of work,
It was about this big, and it took me 2 months and to be happy with it. And then I worked out that I can make, if I'm pushed, I can make a sculpture of around the size of 70 centimetres by about 50 centimetres. I can normally make that in about 140 hours of labour time. That's not including like
development and initial concept.
Well, the object that I'm making at the moment is supposed to be 150 centimetres, and I've got probably maximum about 100 hours or something to make it in. So,
so you're
I'm really, and this comes into financial sustainability. It's not really financially sustainable. I don't think.
Do 140 hours. I mean, how much?
Just for one thing.
Because you can't. I mean, that was what I was thinking. What's the question? I mean, what for all this time for this sculpture? I mean, how much are you going to actually make profit at the end of it?
Well, we can never know that, and in particular with this work, the thing is, I mean, I'm not a great example of financial sustainability, because actually what matters to me
is the object.
Is making what I feel like I want to make and that I want to talk about. And other artists are better at either getting a compromise or completely just saying, look, I mean, I need to eat.
But I don't. But I think there's a lot more people in your boat who are wanting to make things, honest things, and worry about the money later. And those are the people that actually need advice and help anyway.
Yeah, and I think that what they have to do is look at their skill set and think about how that skill set can contribute, because actually if you want money for something, then I think realistically you have to be contributing something that other people want.
Yeah.
Is that basic money making? Like you've got to, it's like
service and
you've got to provide something that people actually need. So, and I don't think that necessarily has to come in the form of an artwork.
No.
Or you can use all the things that you've gained at art school, like creative thinking and how to realise something and develop something. You have to also say, and how is this going to be different? Because what we're doing when we're an artist, in a way, maybe only artists that are fools as well, of which I'm in that category, is that we are gambling with our lives.
Yeah, definitely.
Oliver has a great point there. Whenever we make work, we can never know how it's going to be interpreted, whether or not it will connect in the intended way. We can only work on things that we believe in and hope that they'll be appreciated. If you're looking for more information about Oliver's work, you can follow him on his Tumblr, and the Ellie and Oliver show is available every Friday. For the full interview, the link should be here, and Aspect will be back in 2 weeks. So if you want to be kept up to date, subscribe to the channel. Otherwise, thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.